It was just another Tuesday night, or so I thought. My wife, Sarah, and I had been married for 12 years. 12 years of what I believed were shared dreams, inside jokes, and a love that could withstand anything. We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I always felt we were solid, unbreakable. That night, we were watching a movie, cuddled up on the couch, like we'd done 1,000 times before. Around 11 p.m., Sarah's phone, which was on the coffee table, lit up. Ethos a text. She glanced at it, a flicker of something I could unquite read crossing her face, before she quickly typed a reply and put the phone face down. "Who was that?" I asked, more out of habit than suspicion. "Oh, just my sister," she said, her eyes fixed on the TV. "She's having trouble sleeping again." It seemed plausible. Her sister was a worrier. I didn't think twice about it. The movie ended, and we went to bed. I fell asleep almost instantly, tired from a long day at work. But around those a.m., I was woken up by a faint vibration. It wasn't my phone. It was Sarah's, buzzing on her nightstand. I opened my eyes a sliver and saw her silhouette as she sat up, grabbing the phone. She tiptoed out of the bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. My heart started to pound. 2 a.m. Who calls at 2 a.m.? My mind started racing. Was it an emergency? Was her sister okay? But then, why would she leave the room? A cold dread began to creep into my veins. I slipped out of bed, my feet silent on the cold hardwood floor. I crept to the door and pressed my ear against it. I could hear her voice, a low whisper from the living room. It wasn't the sound of someone dealing with a family emergency. It was different. It was soft, almost intimate. I couldn't make out the words at first, just the cadence of her speech. Then I heard a soft laugh. A laugh I knew well, but this one felt foreign, secretive. My hand was shaking as I slowly turned the doorknob. The door opened with a barely audible click. I peeked through the crack. There she was, standing by the window, bathed in the pale glow of the moonlight. Airbock to me. "I miss you too," she whispered into the phone. "I wish you were here right now." My blood ran cold. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, listening to my wife tell another man she missed him. "No, he's fast asleep," she continued, a slight chuckle in her voice. "He has no idea. He never does. It never does." Those 3 words hit me like a physical blow. The air was knocked out of my lungs. The entire foundation of my world, the 12 years we had built, crumbled into dust in that single moment. All the late nights she said she was working, the girls' weekends that seemed to happen more and more often, the sudden need for privacy with her phone, ... It all came crashing down on me. The puzzle pieces I had subconsciously ignored, the little red flags I'd dismissed as paranoia, now formed a horrifyingly clear picture. I pushed the door open. The floorboard creaked under my weight. Sarah spun around, her eyes wide with shock and terror. The phone was still pressed to her ear. "I have to go," she stammered into the phone before hanging up. She stared at me, her face pale, her mouth slightly agape. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the frantic thumping of my own heart. "Who was that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, but it felt like a roar in the stillness of the night. She couldn't meet my eyes. She just stared at the floor, clutching her phone like a lifeline. It was nothing," she mumbled. "Nothing." I took a step closer. "It didn't sound like nothing. Sarah, I miss you too. He has no idea." I repeated her words back to her, and I saw her flinch. The betrayal was so raw, so potent, it felt like a physical wound. Tears started streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she choked out. "I can explain." But what was there to explain? How do you explain shattering a person's trust so completely? How do you explain making a mockery of 12 years of marriage? The person I thought I knew, the woman I loved more than anything, was a stranger standing in front of me. The next few hours were a blur of tears, accusations, and heartbreaking confessions. His name was Mark, a colleague from her new project. It started with lunches, then drinks after work, then ... more. She told me it just happened, that she was unhappy. that she felt neglected. Excuses. Reasons that did nothing to numb the searing pain in my chest. I felt like a fool. A blind, trusting fool. How could I have not seen it? Was I so wrapped up in my own world that I missed the signs? We talked until the sun came up, but nothing was resolved. The trust was gone. It had been incinerated by that 2 a.m. phone call. Every memory we shared was now tainted. Our wedding photos on the wall seemed to mock me. Every I love you she had ever said now felt like a lie. I looked at her, and I didn't see my wife anymore. I saw the person who had ripped my heart out while I was sleeping next to her. In the days that followed, I moved into the guest room. We were two strangers living under the same roof, the air thick with unspoken words and broken promises. We tried therapy, but it felt like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. The therapist talked about forgiveness and rebuilding, but how do you rebuild on a foundation of lies? Every time I looked at her, all I could see was her silhouette in the moonlight, whispering sweet nothings to another man. The decision to end the marriage was the hardest I've ever had to make, but also the most necessary. Staying would have meant betraying myself. It meant accepting a reality where love and trusts were disposable. I couldn't do that. The divorce was painful and messy. A final, brutal chapter to our story. It felt like a death. The death of a future I had planned. The death of the family I thought we would be. It's been over a year now. The pain is still there. A dull ache that reminds me of what I lost. But it's not all-consuming anymore. I've been focusing on myself, rediscovering who I am outside of that relationship. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes a song or a place will trigger a memory, and the wound feels fresh again. But I'm healing, one day at a time. That one late-night call didn't just expose an affair. It exposed the truth, and while the truth was devastating, it also set me free. Free from a life that was a lie. It was a brutal, heartbreaking end, but it was also the beginning of a new, more honest chapter for me. A chapter I get to write on my own terms. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone, and it does get better. Take care of yourselves.